All right, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. What can you say? The Green Bronx Machine is taking over the world, doing the right things. And the founder of the Green Bronx Machine, the host of Let's Learn with Mr. Ritz, number one Amazon best-selling author. That's the book, The Power of a Plant, award-winning innovator and educator. And all that aside, he's my friend, Stephen Ritz. Nice to see you, Cheese Hat. What's up?
Gary, always wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for having me. And BronxNet, what's up?
That's it.
I'm excited, baby. This is our year.
Okay, well, every year is our year when you're around. Let's start with where you are. You're in St. Louis right now. You've been traveling all summer. Highlights of things that you have done.
So literally, thank you for that, Gary. I come to you live from St. Louis, where I'm meeting and discussing how to get better school food to incentivize attendance and save money for public school systems. So it has been a whirlwind summer. Yesterday, I was in Memphis. Before that, I was in Chicago working with By the Hand Foundation to bring them a greenhouse and public programming into public housing, modeled no less after what we're doing in the Bronx and at Yankee Stadium. Before that, I was in Phoenix, and before that, I was in Santa Barbara. So I'd like to say this is the summer tour from Green Bronx Machine. And like I've always said, Gary, the Bronx is poised, ready, willing, and able to export our talent and diversity. And finally, people are listening. And we are telling a new Bronx narrative of both health, wellness, and educational opportunity that is absolutely inspiring and, most importantly, replicable.
Does it surprise you? Two things. Number one, that a lot of these towns and cities haven't kind of figured this out to begin with. And number two, that once you show up and say, look, I'm promoting your kids being healthier and eating healthier, and we have a greener world, that they say, yes, of course. And you meet with the biggest people in the world, and they all, of course, just say, well, of course, that's correct. I mean,
Well,
does that surprise you, or is it like, well, of course?
Listen, it's been a long journey, as you well know, and I'll keep my politics out of this. But no matter what side
you can't keep politics out of this, but I know you try.
I haven't announced my candidacy yet, but that's another story. And I did have the good fortune, believe it or not, of riding the Amtrak sitting next to Chris Christie and spoke to him for an hour and a half about Green Bronx Machine. And he's actually considering coming to visit us, which when you think about it, is a remarkable accomplishment, either on my end or his end. But either which way, my point being, no matter what side of the aisle you are on, if you can't get behind high-performing schools, high-performing public schools, and happy, healthy children, it is really time to think about who you are.
Right, who you are as a human being.
I'm a seed spreader and a peace promoter, and I'll talk to anybody who listens.
Let's just, you were telling me, dropping some names. You talked about Magic Johnson.
Wow. Yes. So, as
now,
you know,
and of course, Magic Johnson would just say, well, of course I support this. How could he not?
So I will tell you something. You know my story, and you've referenced my book. In my book, I talked about how Magic Johnson had a huge impact on me, not as an athlete, but as an advocate. When he came and shared his status publicly, what that did for kind of destigmatizing a disease that was ravaging our community in the Bronx in the 80s and 90s, and really encourage people to have awareness and get tested and then be more responsible. So to finally meet Magic Johnson, who knew who I was, to take a picture with him, to talk about partnering with Sodexo and Sodexo Magic to bring the Green Bronx Machine message and programming across the country is truly East Coast, West Coast, or as I like to say, a triple double that's rooted in Showtime.
There you go.
I'm more grateful for his support.
But this is the kind of thing that happens. We want to talk about your TV show, which is Let's Learn with Mr. Ritz, which is featured on BronxNet television.
Second season, and this is it, baby. It's really taking off.
I wanted to go one more name drop, and that is Jonathan Taves of the Chicago Blackhawks. Is he still playing? My son would kill me for not knowing. But he's been like an unbelievable supporter.
Listen, Jonathan, to his credit, has been an unbelievable advocate of the program. Mindful I hung up on him when he called me because I didn't know who he was. I wasn't a hockey. But, we're seeing more and more. And I want to really congratulate Jonathan for being at the forefront of what I call social entrepreneurship and inclusion, because it's tough in a city that is divided as Chicago is, although indicative of many cities around the nation, to take the stand that he took. And he's a champion. So, he sponsored 60 schools in Chicago that now outperform their peer index neighbors by 10
Wow.
or more percentage points. And you walk into these schools on the south side of Chicago, and it's like walking into the United Center at game night. But Jonathan did retire.
So when you say sponsor, he paid for what they needed to set up the hydroponic farms and all those kinds of things.
He donated his time, his talent, and his
Wow.
treasure so that we could bring gardens, curriculum, and most importantly, teacher training. Because that's the key. You can have tools. You could buy someone a car, but if they don't know how to drive, Gary, that car is useless. But if you give them good instruction, they're on the road for the rest of their lives and accident free. And quite frankly, that's what Jonathan did. He was able to give teachers access to Green Bronx Machine, our, unlimited professional development, unlimited site licenses, no tiered subscriptions, no annual fees. And we are running this program into Chicago in perpetuity. I got to meet these kids. It was awesome.
You look at the amount of money that some of these athletes make, and you think of comparatively how little a donation would go a long way. And of course, Mr. Met, you introduced me to Mr. Met, and that was kind of fun. Listen, let's learn with Mr. Ritz. Let's show the little video first, and then we'll talk about when it's going to be on and how parents and teachers and children especially can take a look. So let's learn with Mr. Ritz.
Welcome to my class, students.
Hi, Mr. Ritz. Hello, Mr. Ritz.
Hi, Mr. Met. I wonder, what is a seed? Are there any dinosaurs living today? Why doesn't the big blue whale have any gills? I have so many more questions. Let's go. Whoa. How am I going to plan a party in 5 days?
I'll give you a hand, Mr. Ritz.
Where are we? Let's investigate.
5 plates bring me to 5 fingers. Welcome to our next episode of Power to Table to Tony Cooking Show. Mouth-watering watermelon arugula salad.
Caprese ensalada.
Superfood strawberry salad. Mamma mia! Look at that big red rainbow of goodness.
Fruits and vegetables come in every color imaginable. Ooh, a strawberry. I'll see you next time. Arr!
Soundtrack. You gotta love that soundtrack.
I do love it, and it just is electric. So this is the second season.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell us about it? And let me just say, Saturdays, the next couple of Saturdays at 12 p.m. on BronxNet's Channel 70. Go ahead.
But here's the deal. During the pandemic, we launched season 1, which were full 22-minute episodes like network TV. And we had 2 million views, which is remarkable. But now that school's back in session, kids can't watch 22 minutes in a classroom. So these episodes are 4 to 7 minutes long.
Wow.
And they learning activities. They kick off a lesson. They teach kids how to read, how to write a letter, how to make a list, how to do a science journal, how to shop, how to cook, how to draw a specific item. And teachers and principals across the nation are telling us that they absolutely love these episodes to kick off instruction. So it's been brilliant. And here's the best part, Gary. I'm working on replacing you and me because these episodes are being filmed and written and produced by our students. So imagine teaching kids in public housing, teaching kids at CS 55 to film, to produce, to edit, to write, and to script this. They do the work. I get the credit. I get to be here with you. And we are growing the next generation of Anderson Pegueros. I mean, it's just awesome sauce.
Wow, that really is unbelievable. I want to just rewind because of course we've talked about it in a number of forums, whether here on Bronx Talk or in the street. Your personal history to bring you so passionately to this point was a personal story for you, and you transformed yourself through the same things that you teach. To me, it's as good a lesson in all the things you're talking about as any. So just talk about your past and where you are and why you're so passionate about doing these kinds of things.
Well, first and foremost, the greatest lever this nation has and the Bronx has towards equity is public education. Let's be clear. So anything that supports our students, our communities, and our children, I'm going to get behind. And there are our gold medal award winners. But, we're feeling it each and every day in the Bronx with the cost of food, the threat of eviction, the health crisis. I call it the diobesity crisis. So for me, children will never be well read if they're not well fed. And the most important school supply in the world is food. So getting children access to healthy, fresh food, changing their diet so they're not disease ridden, but fueled for success is awesome. And then to be able to give teachers and colleagues and those who I love so much the tools to succeed and democratize the process with open access, no annual fees, no tiered subscriptions, no ridiculous price cost. You talked about Jonathan, you talked about Mr. Met. Realize for $6,500, which is a pittance, you can put a garden in a school, get professional development, have unlimited access to me, our program, and have all the supplies you need in a classroom. So teachers succeed and children thrive.
Don't we have answers that people just don't take the time to look at? Listen, we want to do a shout out to both of our buddies, Louis Torres, who is the principal of CS 55, where it's kind of the home base for this. The last thing I want to mention, which I was not aware of it, the Green Bronx Machine is having a gala this year. Is this our first time?
This is our first ever gala. And believe it or not, I like to say from Park Avenue in the Bronx to Park Avenue, Manhattan, from the Bronx to the world, October 9th, mark your date. Inside Park at St. Bart's, the iconic church that was the first church to not only welcome African Americans, but the LGBTQ plus community into the clergy. We'll be hosting our gala. We're going to be celebrating our students. The NYC Mayor Eric Adams is going to be there. New York City School Chancellor Dr. David Banks, the Bronx's own Dr. Betty Rosa will be there. We have a couple of VIPs. Gary, I'm looking for you to be there. And
I will be there.
A bunch of people from BronxNet.
Great.
This is going to be an opportunity for us to tell our story and to bring our program to not only schools across New York City, but from the Bronx to the world. So please join us. We'll be posting more information, but mark your calendars. Yep. It is October 9th in New York City. Of course, you could always reach out to me, Stephen, STEPHEN.RITZ at greenbronxmachine.org, or info@greenbronxmachine.org works too, or follow us on social media.
Or reach out to Gary, and Gary will send it along. Listen, also, it's important to raise funds because, as you said, those $6,500 can change the lives of everybody, the parents, the kids, the teachers in our schools. What could be better? Listen, hugs, man. I love you.
Gary, I love you. Can't wait to see you. And for everybody out there, do something today that you and your future self will thank you for. What you eat is who you are.
I have a fruit smoothie every morning with a little protein powder, and I'm still here. Steve Ritz, you're the best.
So are you, Gary. We love you.
Okay. Saturdays at noon on BronxNet Channel 70. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will do it for the Bronx Buzz. And so we thank Aliya Schneider from the Bronx Times for joining us in our first segment. And, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, I'll be back next week. We'll see you then. Good night.